today's short video, I'm going to talk to you about, one of the great things about living or visiting London, or one of the downsides to living or visiting London. Some of the things you need to know if you're planning to live there or if you're planning to visit there, what to expect. The first thing that you need to know about London, it doesn't have all the seasons. London is usually really cold throughout the whole year. There is a time during the summertime that throughout the whole year. There is a time during the summertime that it gets sunny, but it's not going to be like California. It's not going to be like Cancun. It just gets a little bit, maybe about 70 degrees. But there's always rain, and it's the weather's usually cold all the time. So even in the summertime. But yeah, the second thing that you need to consider when you're visiting or wanting to live in London is that London is really expensive. If you live in the center where I did, near Oxford Circus, in the center where I did, near Oxford Circus or Mayfair, the prices on the flats are really high up compared to the countries in Europe. So most of the people that live there, even including myself, we just we got flats, and I had roommates, and we just tried to live within a flat just to pay for the rent and so forth, because it does add up after the month. So try to consider that you're gonna have to live with a roommate or so forth if you're planning to live there. And if you don't live in the center and you live somewhere out and you're planning to work in London, then you're gonna have to commute. A lot of people do commute. The commute is kind of expensive as well. You're looking at a train. On the tube station, it's about £2 and €80. During rush hour, it's about a pound more, a pound and a half more. It's about, I don't know, what's about £3 and 30 cents to go through in rush cents to go through in rush hour. And if you want to take the bus is about £1, £1.50. So it might not sound like a lot, but if you're doing it every day, it does add up. Now you're probably wondering, okay, what about the Ubers? The minimum charge for Ubers is about £6, and we're talking about one way. If you're going on the normal tube, the normal taxis, they charge more than the Ubers, obviously. Say for instance, like when I went from Notting Hill to, where was it, Canary Wharf, I think it was. I think it was around 25 pounds. So with traffic and so forth, it does add up. So just consider another thing that's really expensive is if you're going to a bar. The drinks are kind of expensive. If you want to buy like 2 pints of beer, it's probably going to cost you about 15 pounds. So a lot of people, even including my friends, we used to have these get-togethers in the house, and we used to drink up and get a little tipsy and so forth. And we used to go to the pub, and we would buy like one or two one or two pints of beer there, because it does add up. By the time you get a buzz over there, you're probably over 100 pounds. So it is what it is. I did what the locals did, so I'm just letting you know what people in London do. All right, another thing to consider if you're planning to move to London, or if you're planning on visiting, most of the hotels, well, the high-end hotels do have it, but if you're looking at a regular hotel or a regular flat that you wish to live in London, most of the places, they don't have air conditioning. You're probably not going to want to need it, but I know a lot of guys, they really go for the air conditioning, so it's something that you have to consider. There's really no air conditioning in London. Maybe further up, maybe, I don't know. I didn't live up further north. I just went to Scotland, and they didn't have air conditioning either. So that's one thing to consider. All right, what are the positive things about living in London or visiting London? Well, London, there's so much to see. There's the museums that are free. There's Canary. Museums that are free. There's Canary Wharf where, it's kind of like the stock exchange, like the New York Stock Exchange. It's really pretty. And there's just, you could go to all these places that go to Camden Market. Camden Market, it's kind of like Venice in LA. It's pretty trendy, it's pretty hip. It's Soho. It's Soho. Piccadilly Square is really great too. It's kind of like the Hollywood of London. So there's just so many variety of London. So there's just so many variety of things, and it's so multicultural, and you could see people from all different walks of life, and everybody just hubs around, and there's always something to do. Not unless you're a boring person, of course, but there's always something to do, something always to go. The museums are free. You go to Hyde Park. During winter, Hyde Park has this really great Christmas festival that you could buy really great food. Christmas festival that you could buy really great food, and there's Buckingham Palace, and there's all kinds of things, and the transportation is great. It is expensive. It does get expensive after a while, but transportation is great. You don't need to take a taxi. Say, for instance, from the airport. I got off at Gatwick Airport, and the tube station just took me straight to where I needed to be. And there's so many airports in London. So, if you're not getting out of Heathrow, you're going out of Gatwick. I think there's about 7 airports. So, you have a whole variety of things. You could probably say that, it, London is, Londoners, they're not as friendly as some other countries, like Latin countries or Mediterranean countries. So if you're a Latin person like I am, it is a little bit difficult to blend in. It does take a while for you to make some friends and so forth. But once you make friends, it'll be pretty cool. Like, for instance, you're not going to see a lot of people talking on the metro, not unless it's within one another. But, everybody usually keeps to themselves. What's the dating scene like? Well, it's pretty active, especially most people, they try to date, by meeting someone on an app and, getting together and everything. And like I said, London has a whole variety of nationalities and countries and so forth. So, there's a lot of options, not just one. So that's a win-win situation. One of the things that annoyed me about when I was living in London is, when you're just getting there, you don't know the rules and so forth. So I would stand, when I was going up the escalator on the tube, and I would just get my luggage or whatever, and I would stand on the left, and people would just, just really pissed off. It's supposed to be a passageway, you're supposed to pass people. You're not supposed to stand on the left. So, do as the locals do. Don't stand on the left like, I did. I got cursed out a couple times for doing that. One of the bad things about living in London too is in the summertime, if you're in the underground tube, it gets so hot, it's unbearable. I mean, sometimes you can't even breathe. So, it's suffocating. So you're gonna have to get used to that as well. What else? I was living in New York, and I lived in LA, and I lived in different places, and you're just so used to hanging out and having an after hours, like in Vegas. Everything closes like at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, if you're living in London, it's not going to be like that. I mean, the pub closes around 10:45, 11 o'clock at night. So things are kind of shitty that way. You know, things get closed pretty soon, and you know you're gonna have to take your party somewhere at somebody's house. But you know, it is one of the downfalls. I really didn't like about that. Another thing that I found it pretty irritating was the bathrooms. You know, when you go to a public bathroom, you know, you want to charge your phone, or you want to take those you know, portable curling irons to curl your hair or whatever. Well, you know, there's no plugins, there's no ports to do that, you know, in the public bathrooms. And also, you know, when I went to the malls in London, you know, I didn't see any fountains, water fountains. So there's no place to drink. There's no public water system. Anyway, well, let's talk about some good things now. Say, for instance, that you want to live in London and you know you want to do work there. Well, the good thing about London is that you know there's a lot of places that are hiring, you know, from all different types of jobs. So there's a lot of places that you could work for. You know, there's a steady income. You can find a job with that. Most of the people in London, you know, a lot of my friends say their paycheck was once a month. It's not weekly or you know every week, so you're gonna have to consider that as well. People get paid once a month, and you're gonna have to next YouTube video. So I hope this was helpful, and I really appreciate your time. And if you like the content, please subscribe and help the channel out. You know, give a donation or whatever. So I'll see you guys in a few days on my next video. All right, take care. Bye.